Hey Instagram, it's Dr. Rick, and today's going to be a reboxing. I typically do unboxings, but luckily enough, and for those of you following on my YouTube channel, which I'll put down below, I became positive with the PCR test. This is a PCR test, that's a nasal swab, and no, it wasn't stuck all the way in there. It was actually pretty decent at my friend's office, Dr. Patel, and this is detected. That means detected, that means it was found. Now, you could argue the fact that maybe it was a false positive, but no. I mean, with chills and a slight headache that I don't usually get this time of year, and I did trace it back to one person possibly at Ace Hardware that was coughing without a mask about 3 days before I had the first symptom. I can't guarantee it, but that's the only contact. Aside from that, I'm always N95'd and washing hands, and it could have been somebody else. However, bottom line is I got positive tested. I flew through the symptoms in 4 days. And luckily, this is now my 14th day, no symptoms, which is pretty cool. I attribute that to, it's not a guarantee again, but I attribute it to healthy living, plant-based dieting, exercise, mindful practice, and following what the CDC suggests, masking, distance, hand washing. I think all that's important. I know that at this point in time, with the holidays, we're probably going to have a continuation of the surge that began to click up from around the elections onward. I should say Halloween and elections onward. So I don't think we're going to get rid of this mini surge for another 4 weeks, unfortunately. That'll put us into holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah, but will also put us into Wonder Woman 1984. I'm a DC Marvel fan, so I'm looking forward to that, believe it or not. However, this reboxing is going to be all the stuff, all the goodies that I suggested to my patients during COVID. And there has to be some data that's reproducible before I can make suggestions to my patients. Now, you don't have to have a $1 million study to suggest zinc, especially if zinc is on the low side. And in the majority of my patients that I checked before COVID came, magnesium and zinc usually on the low side. So I included zinc in my suggestions because the downside is low. The only downside with zinc, unfortunately, is that when you take zinc in, copper gets pooped out. So you might have to watch your copper. I've been suggesting zinc, and I'll put a video link down below to the video I did in the springtime on zinc, quercetin, and EGCG. But bottom line is, at this point in time, I don't need to worry about my antibodies are taking over. So triplet is out. Now, this is my usual go-to, not necessarily for COVID, but more for infection. Whenever I get exposed during flu season to somebody that comes in the office, and I think I'm coming down with a post-flu exposure. Yeah. But this is the triplet of what I use. Mushroom, Astragalus, and Butterbur. This also has a little bit of Saccharomyces and a couple other things, but I think this has always been, if you watch my videos, my go-to whenever I have colds, coughs, fevers, or chills. Again, it's not too often, but as soon as I get exposed, I usually will crank on this, do it for about a week, 5 days to 7 days, and then put it back away. And it's going away. So luckily, all that stuff is getting put back into my bag of goodies that I've accumulated over the course of time. I don't have to rely on that stuff all the time, but what I'm going to do is go back to my usuals: vitamin D, DHA, algae-based, curcumin, and magnesium, and these goodies. But 3 days ago, I started exercising again. And I was honestly staying away from exercise for 2 weeks because I did not want to take the chance of turning on or triggering a cytokine storm. Sometimes aggressive exercise can trigger a cytokine storm, even if you're well-versed with exercise and your mitochondria. And I'll be doing a video on Zone 2 training for those of you who want to know how to pay it forward and get ready for the COVID exposure. I think if you're Zone 2 trained, it will hopefully ensure that you don't suffer like everybody else suffers. And it's never a guarantee. And in fact, I saw where some elite athletes were suffering from post-COVID heart issues. But honestly, the exercise that you indulge in will get your lungs healthier, will get your immune system healthier, will help you to reverse diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, or comorbid conditions that increase the chances of bad outcome. Not only that, those comorbid conditions increase your chances, forget COVID, increase your chances of heart attack, stroke, neurodegenerative disorders, and cancer. So if you're going to pay it forward, start doing this stuff that I suggest, because there's still more people dying of those 3 things, or those 4 things I just mentioned, than COVID put together. So I think that's it's important, and it is a tough sell to make a lifestyle change, because I think we always have people that rationalize they don't have money to pay for a gym, they don't have money to pay for organic. Plant-based tastes terrible, they don't know how to cook, and they have too many aches and pains, so they can't start exercising. Or I'm not stressed out, so I don't need to do mindful practice. And I'm sorry, I'm coming down on you guys. You know who you are, but honestly, 2020 is, if anything, it should tell you that you gotta pay attention to your investment. Materialistic investment will be cool if you have the fanciest iPhone, and that's what I'm recording this from, an iPhone 11. It's not fancy, but it's fancier than a 10, I guess. But honestly, if we go buy the most expensive phones, the most expensive cars, the biggest houses, if you take pictures of the most lavish dinners that you pay for, that's cool. But if you're not exercising or doing mindful practice or practicing a mindful nutrition practice, you don't have to be plant-based. You just have to know what to do and maybe fast. If you're not doing that, all that stuff, you can't take it with you, and you're going to be up shit's creek, because you're going to have those comorbid conditions start to tag you with symptoms sooner or later. So now I'm sorry I had to get that out, but I think it's worth it to pay it forward with investment in healthy lifestyle, essentially the lifestyle of a blue zoner. So now blue zone people don't necessarily take cannabis, but I think that this has helped me in the transition of me getting back to my exercise. So as I was saying, I stayed away from exercise for about 2 weeks. This COVID has given me a taste for meat for some reason, which was really yummy for Thanksgiving, but man, my belly got bloated and I gassed up the entire house. So I have no problem with saying that. However, I don't want that. That's a side effect of food that's not agreeing with me. And as good as it tasted going down, it reminded me of my mama cooking for Thanksgiving and inviting all the relatives around and having this lavish feast where we all walked around the huge dinner table and picked our favorite chair and just sat in gluttony afterward. I think that those memories I appreciate, but it's time to get back into the swing of things, because I still have a goal of trying to hit base camp, the Everest Base Camp ER, by 2023. So I'm still working towards it. I've conquered 14,000 feet on the lower 48, at least at Colorado, a couple times already, so I'm ready for that. I think we have to hold ourselves accountable to goals, short-term and long-term. This short-term goal paid off. I beat COVID, and I'm going to keep on enthusiastically pushing the formula that I use for myself and my other warriors. And then we're going to continue on that routine and beat the other diseases that are coming up. So even if you have cancer, and I have some patients with cancer, I have some patients with pelvic floor dysfunction, fibromyalgia, some anxiety/mood disorder because of COVID, regardless, and then all the other medical problems, high blood pressure, insulin resistance, obesity. We are working to reverse that crap, but it does take personalized planning. Me and my coaches, whether you see me in Hoffman Estates or me and my coaches at the Endorphin Effect, we are in it for you to win it. And if we can reverse disease, then the investment's worth it. So my cannabis coaches too, I have to make an advertisement or a PSA for my cannabis coaches, because I think that sometimes when you're starting from scratch, you're going to experience pain. Again, circling back around to what I initially started out with, I stayed off for 2 weeks and I started to have a taste for meat, and I also had a taste for running. I don't really like running. I'm a sprinter from high school and college, but Short of that, I attempted to do a marathon. I did do a marathon in 2009 from my mom, and 2010 just to get the 10-10-10 shirt. And I will not do that again. That was painful, but I did do it just to say I could do it without training. And I think it was a testament to the lifestyle that I lead. Anyway, the idea is that I did try to do a run, a mile, and whoopee, a big mile, but man, am I sore. I'm walking around like John Wayne. I have to walk down the steps backwards because my forefoot flexors, I'll talk about that in one of the videos coming up, but I'm a 4-foot striker. I'm a sprinter, so I usually will run on the balls of my feet more so than the heels. I really think that minimalist running or shoes and heel striking is not that great. I just think that you'd be better off, especially if you have knee pain, ankle pain, foot pain, do 4-foot strike, but I'll leave that for another video. However, I did pay it forward by trying to run just a mile, and man, I've got pain in my feet, pain in my calves, my soleus specifically, and it's kind of moving up the chain to hips, glutes, and now trapezius muscles. My fibro is trying to kick in, but I've relied on my cannabis. So I am a medical cannabis card holder, but I really would just rely on CBD. I don't like the effects of THC unless I'm having problems with sleep, and I need something for nighttime occasionally, but most of the videos I've done in the past where I experimented with THC, I don't like the feeling afterwards. So I like that plant because of the CBD. This is a available tincture called Grassroots 20-to-1, really high CBD to THC. You will not get high with it, but it's high ratio. And the CBD will help the immune system. It'll also help inflammation. And I think it keeps your mood modulated. Again, that's probably, I'll put a link to the video I did on CBD. And this is a topical that I found in Colorado. And you're not supposed to put this on the plane. But I found it in Colorado and magically it's here. So this is the most, I think I've done a video on this as well. 2,000 milligrams of CBD. There it is. Well, approximately. So that's the highest amount of CBD that I could find. Hopefully that comes in properly compared to THC. But that got me past the second mountain. On my birthday, I did 2 14ers. I did one 14er, which was fine with me. And I thought, you know what? I got an extra day here. I'm going to do another 14er. But I was super sore the first time. And I went to a dispensary in Colorado, picked this up, and magically I got to the second 14er, which was aptly named Mount Sherman, and I conquered Mount Sherman. So whether it was the CBD or whether it was my training, I don't care, but I'm not stopping this stuff because there's no downside. As I was alluding to with the zinc, the mushroom, the Astragalus, the EGCG, the quercetin, there's no downside to that stuff. So if there's no downside and there's a potential upside, especially if there's data, albeit it's old data, 2003 with the SARS virus, and then old data from China. Mushrooms are very popular in China. I think it's worth it. High positive effect, low negative effect, I would say do it. Z-Pack off-label use for COVID, the downside is low as long as you rebuild your gut after the Z-Pack is done, and that usually means probiotic. And I have done a video on Saccharomyces, great anti-inflammatory. It's a yeast, but anyway, I've got a lot of videos, but bottom line is if you subscribe to me on YouTube, you'll be able to find out and hit the alert bell. You'll be able to find out when I do new videos. But this is the thumbs up with regards to conquering COVID. So the other thing I thought, aside from stopping the COVID supplements that I take, I can now go see a movie. Although there's no movies available, but I don't have to worry about getting COVID anymore, at least this year, until it morphs, perhaps. That's a theory. It might morph. But I certainly don't want to carry anything home. The data is a little weak as far as whether a COVID person that had an infection and now has antibodies can still be a carrier. Possibility is there, but the likelihood is low, honestly. So, finally, I will say, those of you who watch and subscribe to me and made it through COVID, there's a link to the Red Cross that you can sign up with to donate or get your name on the list to donate your plasma. I think people need it. And some people aren't convinced that lifestyle is important to change, or some people are just too deep into the crap of medical disease on insulin and on a bunch of other things, and they're just in too much pain to really reverse their comorbid conditions that they might need your help. So all my warriors that have made it through COVID, please check out the Red Cross website where you can put your name down and potentially get to donate and help the country. I know the vaccine is coming out. I did do a video on vaccine. I haven't seen the side effects. It's only been 2 months, so it looks like the efficacy is great, 94.5 to 95% to decrease the severity and the symptoms of COVID, but I don't know about the side effects. So we have to be a little bit cautious. When the data comes out, which it will soon after it gets peer reviewed, I'll review and make my suggestions, but as most of you know, I kind of don't like vaccines. I like healthy living. Now, don't let that dissuade you. If you're high risk, you probably should get the influenza vaccine. So, bottom line is, thank you for watching up until this point. I'm getting rid of some of you asked, what am I taking as far as COVID? And you can review or reverse this video and see the bottles. You can't take this as medical advice unless you're my patient actively. And if you're not my patient, ask your doc about medical advice on what they would suggest or if this is safe for your conditions. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe, hit the alert button on YouTube. Stay safe, and I'll see you at the next video.